Forrest Gump is a beloved movie about a guy from Alabama with an IQ of 75. He found love at a young age, went on loads of adventures through the 50s, 60s and 70s to make his love real and to thoroughly enjoy his life. However, the movie Forrest Gump is very different to book Forrest. Forrest Gump is a 1986 novel by Winston Groom, and whilst a lot of the adventures that we see Forrest have are the same in the books, there are some key differences. In the book, like the movie, Forrest Gump narrates his life. The author uses misspellings and grammatical errors to indicate the character's southern accent, education, and cognitive disabilities. While living in Mobile, Alabama, Forrest meets Jenny Curran, a first grader, and walks her home, and from there they become the best of friends. By the time Forrest is 16 years old, he's 6'6", 110 kilos, and he plays high school football. Miss Henderson, who Forrest has a crush on, also teaches him reading. He reads Mark Twain, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, and he enjoys the books, but he doesn't actually do very well on tests. He gains popularity as a football player, becoming an all-state player. He's shortly called to the principal's office, where Bear Bryant, who was a noted university coach, asked if he'd considered playing college football. After high school, Forrest takes a test at a local army recruitment centre and is told he is temporarily deferred. Forrest and Jenny meet again at the University of Alabama and play together in a folk music band at the student union, covering singers such as Bob Dylan. But after one semester, Forrest actually flumps out of university. He and his friend Bubba are drafted into the army, and as we know, Bubba dies in the Vietnam War. Forrest is wounded and he meets Lieutenant Dan, who has lost his legs in the infirmary. Dan tells Forrest that he feels Forrest is destined for something great. Whilst recovering, Forrest develops a talent for ping pong, eventually playing in a tournament in China, and then he met President Lyndon Johnson. He reconnects with Jenny and he is arrested and institutionalized after a peace demonstration. At this point, the doctors realise that he has a talent for doing maths in his head, and he's recruited to be an astronaut for NASA. When Sue, a male orangutan on the flight, wrecks the ship, they crash land in New Guinea and end up captives with a tribe of cannibals, whose chief actually teaches Forrest to play chess. After returning to the US, Forrest meets President Richard Nixon and runs into Dan, who is now homeless. They travel to Indianapolis to look for Jenny and find her working in a tyre plant. Forrest then begins working as a wrestler, fighting under the moniker the Dunce. At this point, Dan actually hatches a plan to rip off Forrest's manager, and Jenny leaves out of absolute disgust. Forrest dreams of starting a shrimp business like his friend Bubba wanted to, and decides to head for Louisiana. But before he goes, he meets a chess champion who realises Forrest's talent and enters him into a competition, but this, however, doesn't actually pan out. Forrest and Sue eventually make it to Bubba's hometown, and with advice from Bubba's father, they create a shrimp company. This becomes so successful that Forrest actually becomes a millionaire and manages to hire most of the people that he's met throughout his life. He's then roped into running for US Senate, but does have to drop out after the media discover his checkered past. After this, he and Sue move to Savannah, where Forrest performs as a one-man band. He finds Dan again and runs into Jenny, who has a son, who she actually tells him to be Forrest's. But Forrest decides not to be present in his son's life as Jenny's now married. So he, Sue and Dan move to New Orleans, and that is actually the outline of the novel. So let's look at the key differences. So the film doesn't outline Forrest with someone who has Savant syndrome. Now this is someone who shows aptitude in a particular area such as maths or the arts, despite significant social or intellectual impairment. It cleans up his sex life and reduces the profanity that he uses throughout the book. Furthermore, it doesn't include his time with NASA, nor other careers such as wrestling, and it dropped his time that he spent with the cannibals or with the orangutan Sue. Whilst I would have liked to have seen the adventures that Forrest took with Sue, I am okay with not seeing the whole cannibal teaching him how to play chess. The movie softens Gump and it takes off all those rough edges that he has in the book, and it gives us the more wholesome figure that we're used to, who does want to be a father and obviously, as we know, lives out Bubba's dream. The characters between the novel and the movie do have variance, but I don't think in this case the changes made were necessarily bad. As I've said, they gave us this character that is wholesome, that is caring, that you want to like. I do think, however, that one thing that they could have done was demonstrate the Savant syndrome that Forrest has in the book. It would have given him another layer and given light to a condition that is probably unknown to most people. But that's it for today's video, guys. I really thought it was interesting seeing the differences and how you can actually create a character from a book and leave some important information out but make them just as lovable and just as interesting to watch. Don't forget to like the video, guys. Subscribe as well so you don't miss out on anything else we have coming. Until next time, you take care.